Okay, let's see here. I don't even see my own child. This is bad. There she goes. All right. All right, let's see. At least, can you see my PowerPoint here on your screen? Yes? Okay. Super duper. All right. So, um, let's see here. So tonight's meeting, I'm glad you guys could all join. I know people are running around. So I thought we could do this one on Zoom, even though it's not super awesome, but better than half the kids missing. Um, for this meeting, I have a hard stop tonight because I have to go to another meeting that's much less fun than this one. So we're going to be here about 40 minutes or so, if not maybe even a little bit less, depending on how much, if you guys have questions and stuff. I just want to kind of recap what we've done in these last couple weeks and get everybody caught up and have a chance for any of you to ask questions or uh, don't do that. Ask questions or figure out if you're having problems or whatever. So we should have some spare time tonight for that. So these last so we've had our pigs now since the 6th of January, which is 45 days or something like that, or 47 days. So in that time, all of your pigs have uh, done really well, except we have had some health challenges this year so far since our last meeting. So we had 4 or 5 pigs that got a little bit of kind of a lung sickness kind of thing. Unfortunately, in case you guys aren't all chatty Cathys and talking about each other, we did have one pig pass away. So Zoe's pig that was out at the Bruscas caught what's called interstitial pneumonia. And it is a very common thing in pigs. And for some pigs, like the ones that at Julia and Elise's pen that had a cough, and a couple at Emily's pen had a cough too. Uh, they will get their drugs and be better within 6 or 8 days. Some pigs just either had a worst case of it or had some other issue that made them susceptible to the disease. And then what happens with pigs, and this is what happened with Zoe's, is she got a little bit better and then got a little bit worse, and then we doctored her again. And then what happens is then they start feeling poorly and they don't eat, and then they get weak, and it just gets worse and worse and spiral. And finally, we had to have Dr. Bravos come out and put it to sleep because it was just not going to get any better. So that is a bummer. Luckily, um, Roman and Lucy's mom and I had bought a spare pig to eat at the end of the season. And so now Mr. Spare Pig is Zoe's pig again, and it's a big pink sucker, so it's looking nice. Um, we also had some kids come down with what we call in the swine project scours. So scours is just a fancy word for livestock diarrhea. And for those of you guys who have had diarrhea so far this year, the diarrhea ranges from not a big deal when it comes out like soft serve ice cream. And then it becomes a big deal when you start getting watery diarrhea or blood in their feces. So we had a little bit of that too. Um, it seems like everybody's diarrhea went away pretty well once we did our first worming with the febendazole, with the everybody did the paste warmer. So I think that went really well. Um, the the other the thing that we don't usually do too much prophylactic worming just because our pigs aren't really out grazing and eating and getting into stuff too much. They tend to either come with worms and we got to treat it, or they just don't usually get them very much at all. And we don't even know if ours did have worms or not. But the first step with a pig that has the poops is to worm them just in case. So that seems to have helped mostly. Uh, so yeah, that's good. Does anybody else's pig have any medical stuff happening right now they want to talk about while we're here? Did anybody's pig's ears get gross, giant, scabby, and foul looking from being tagged? That's good. Okay. Um, what the only thing, so that's good. If they're not already, then they're going to be fine. We also have, just for your edification, we also have a case of mites cooking up at the Porter Pen, where Wheeler's pig has some mites going on right now. What mites are is a little bug, so it's not like a flea. It's more like a biting insect. Some pigs react to them very strongly. Other pigs don't. So you guys all probably have mites to some extent in your pens. It's just some pigs are much more reactive to the mites than others. So the way you know you have mites, and it's not just mosquito bites, is they are very hard. So a mosquito bite, and pigs do get mosquito bites, just like we all are right now out at our pens. Um, they won't be as many, and they're not going to be nearly as hard. So for the pigs with the mites, they have to be uh, dewormed again, but it's a different product. So this product that we have to use for the mites is an injectable. It's ivermectin. I don't know if you guys remember during COVID, the big drama about people taking the people version of ivermectin, because ivermectin is also used in livestock and dogs and cats. But that's the same product. The only problem is this one has to be injected under their skin. So that's a bummer, and it's always fun. We just did that this afternoon, and I think hopefully they got all their juice. And then Wheeler, we're going to do it again in 2 weeks. The only thing to think about when you're doing some of these medications is that medications have what's called a withdrawal period. That is the number of days before you slaughter an animal to eat that you can give a certain drug. Um, if you give drugs closer than 2 weeks you cannot slaughter a pig that you've given ivermectin to. So now we have like 65 days, 70 days till fair. So it's not a problem, but it would be something we would have to think about if we were at the end of April and looking at doing this again. So just keep an eye on that. We don't want to give any drugs we don't have to give, but we want to make sure we don't make a mistake and give drugs that have a withdrawal period. The fenbendazole warmer that we did with the paste has no withdrawal period. So you could give that if your pigs start having worms like the day before we go to show. So it'll say on the package the withdrawal, if any, for the drug. So okay, so tonight we're going to talk about we all just got weighed in the last week. That went really well. So we have some information on how big our pigs are. And then when we weigh them again, I'm hoping to weigh them on roughly 2 weeks. I finished all the pigs on Saturday. So I'm hoping to go around on the following 2 weeks from that Sunday probably and try to weigh everybody's pigs again. And the reason we want to do that is because we want to track their rate of gain. Now, what is rate of gain? So rate of gain, and I sent this sheet and another one that talks about feeding pigs to your parents this afternoon. So if you want to look at that, you can. The rate of gain is the weight it was on this week when we weighed them and tagged them until when we weigh them and tag them again. The difference between those two numbers divided by the number of days is their rate of gain. Now, why do we care about rate of gain? We care about rate of gain because we need to know if what we're feeding the pig is enough. We need to know if the pig is gaining weight too fast. We need to know if the pig is gaining weight too slowly. If a pig is on free feed and it's not gaining weight at about 2 pounds a day or 1 3/4 pounds, then the pig is either has a physical problem or it's got worms or it's just not eating as much as we'd hoped. So with this form, and I don't know, I can't get the stupid 17th of February off of this, so just ignore that. But you would put the pig's weight in the first slot. The goal weight for our show, I always use 270 pounds as a good ballpark um, weight. Uh, so our minimum to show your pig and sell it is 200 pounds, and the maximum for it to place and sell is 300 pounds. So we want to make sure we're at least above that. All of your pigs right now are on track to at least be above that. I think our lightest pig was in the 120s, and so you have 68 days left to get 80 pounds. So that should be no problem whatsoever. Our heaviest pig, I think, was Joey's second pig, and she's a big girl. She was 170 pounds. So that one's going to be interesting to see what happens. Now, uh, since we know that a pig is going to gain roughly 1 pound of pig for every 3 pounds of food it gets into its stomach, you can then do the math on how much food you need to put in your pig in order for it to convert that food to more pig on X number of days, so that on May 2nd, when we go and weigh pigs, that you're in a good zone for the pig. Now, not all of our animals are going to gain weight at the same pace. They're not all going to gain weight. It's not linear. You guys have taken enough math class to know what linear means. Uh, your pig will go through growth spurts just like a human teenager does, and two pigs that are from the same litter, and several of you have siblings. Two pigs from the same litter can grow at very different rates, just based on the pig's attitude, how much it eats, how much the other one bosses it around. All kinds of stuff can happen. So it's something that that we want to keep a look at. All right, so you guys can all on your own in these next few days kind of just do a little back of the napkin here to figure out what your rate of gain needs to be for your pig to get to 270 pounds in the next 75 days. Now, if your pig is on the smaller side, like I think Emily's texting me right now saying that her pig was it was about 105, then she has a little bit more work to do, but that's still very manageable as long as once we check the weight again in 2 weeks, that it's taking that progress. We want to make sure that we're going to weigh them more often this year. That's one of my goals for this year for you guys to get a lot more weights on paper so you can keep track of your pigs better. If you ever do want to weigh your pigs, and I'm not just offering to come do it, you can just ask me and we can meet up on whatever weeknight, and I can bring the scale by and we can do it. It's not a big deal. So don't feel like you can't ask. So what do you do if you're looking at your pig and your pig is too small? That's our first example. Or if your pig is just right. So we had a lot of pigs in the 125, 130, 140 range this week. That is just about perfect. So that they got about 120 pounds to gain in 67 days to do it. If over the next couple of weeks, if you're still going to free feed them in the hopper, they gain a proper amount, then that's fine. As long as they're growing nicely, then you don't have to take the extra time and trouble to do a ration feeding setup. A lot of things can also change even on free feed. So like I'll use Julia and Elisa's pigs for an example. So they have changed their pen around a little bit, and one of their pigs is now in its own pen with its own feeder, and that pig was growing a little bit slower than they would have liked. I think it was Julia's smaller one. And then once they separated it and it has its own feeding now, it, at least that's one factor, it had a much better rate of gain in between their last weighings. So a lot of things can really affect how much your pig is eating. If you sit and watch your pigs for a little while and you have two or three in a pen, you might see that one is being a jerk and kicking the other ones off the feeder just out of being a punk. You might also see that one of your pigs is just in that feeder all the time and he's really growing, and you might just see that the other one just is not. Um, and sometimes we get lucky, and you know, pigs are good self-managing growers, and sometimes they're just not. So that's why we weigh. And then if we have to take the steps to do a ration feeding program, which is what a lot of the kids at show do from start to finish, we can make that choice to do that. So what does that mean, being on a ration feed? So the word ration basically means the allotment for the day based on your pig's um, weight and what your goal is for that pig um, to to be at the rate of gain you need for that pig to show on show day at the proper size. Okay, so a pig is going to be fed at least 2.5 to 3% of his body weight in feed per day. Okay, so if you have a 120-pound pig, 150-pound pig, you're going to need, 4.5, 5 pounds of food per day. We would weigh that food using our kitchen scale. Hopefully you have one. If you don't, I do. And then you would serve that amount of food to your pig in the morning, half of it, and then half of it at night. And you would monitor that pig while they ate it to make sure that all the food you actually um, all the food that you've given them, they actually eat. At least I see your question. I'll get to you in a sec. Uh, the important thing is we need to monitor what they're eating, because a lot of times kids will get into the trap of just putting the food out and walking away and going home or going inside or playing on their phone. And they assume the pig got all their food in when in fact they ate like half of it and then kicked the bowl over and ruined it and didn't eat it. And if they do that half the time, it can really change how much food is actually going into that pig. Okay. So uh, one of the things that really will help us do is to say, once you have your next weight, you'll be able to actually say, like, that pig was on 3 pounds of feeding and it ate 82 pounds of food this week, and it gained, 22 pounds. So it'll give you both sides of that equation. Okay. So ration feeding is more labor intensive uh, than free feeding, obviously. Okay, but it doesn't have to be a big horrible thing. Um, most of the time, you are going. Somebody in your pen is checking on them in the morning, and somebody's checking on them at night. Uh, the only real difference is you just make food and they eat it while you're doing your other chores. The best way to get them to eat the food in an expedient manner and not waste it is to do what's called slopping. So slopping, it's not giving the pig slop like you think about from the cartoons where they're eating uh, kitchen garbage. You will take your food and you'll get it wet and mix it up with a spoon so that it's like wet oatmeal. And then after a couple minutes, it'll soak up quite a bit of it and become a little bit stiffer. But the pig will eat that food much more fastly. That's not English. Much faster if it's a wet consistency. And I would make the analogy to um, if you were to be given a box of cake mix, brownie mix, and you're like, I'm gonna eat this, dude. This is gonna be good. What would it be like to just put a spoon in there when the brownie mix is dry and eat it versus making the batter with the water and the oil and egg and everything else, assuming you can eat eggs raw. and then trying to eat that batter once it's nice and wet and delicious and gooey versus trying to eat powder. When you give your pigs powdered food, you'll notice what they do is they'll eat some, they'll usually go drink, and then they'll come back and they'll eat a little bit more, and then they'll go drink. And so it can take a long time for a pig to eat 3 pounds of food, 2 pounds of food. So slopping it adds an extra step at the front end, but your pig will eat that food shockingly fast compared to um, what they consume if it's dry. Okay. So at least, Myrtle's 150 pounds now. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. So if we're shooting for 270 or 265, whatever that might be, you would just subtract the two and you have 110 or 115 pounds to work with, right? Uh, for your target weight, for a safe weight to be in the show, you have 150 pounds to work with, right? So our target weight, which is kind of arbitrary, but there's no other way to do it. If it's going to be 265, you have 115 pounds, and you did it Sunday, the 23rd. So you have 5 days, 7 days. You have 67 days between um, between Sunday when you weighed her and then your weigh-in, which is going to be on Thursday, May 2nd. So uh, all of you guys are in a good position except for one or two of having a pig that, if anything, is going to be right on target. 2 pounds a day, pound and 3/4 a day is super attainable number, and it's a comfortable rate of gain for your pig. Some of you other ones that are all safe for the 200 thing, you could push your pigs a little bit and see if you can get more food in them. It is much easier to make a pig, to push a pig at this age than it is later. So, uh, but I don't think any of you really need to push your pigs. So that's a good term to talk about. Pushing our pig is trying to let it have it gain more weight than it otherwise would if it just let it eat whatever it wanted. Okay. And then there's holding your pig, which is to slow its rate of gain so that it doesn't get too big. Okay. Right now is the time when we want to, if we were going to, any of the pigs that we're going to hold, we want to do it right now. You never want to do it at the start because they're little and we want them to get good and eat and grow their bone structure and their muscle structure from that first month. And it's really hard to hold them once they're big because they just are just angry. And you don't want to be holding your pigs at the end because you want them to look nice and fresh and happy at show. So this month of March is a good time to kind of maybe slow that pig a little bit. Make sure you've got a little bit of a buffer for the scale at the end. And then they also they do better with it at this time because they're just not growing as fast. Yeah. So if any of you guys think you want to start doing ration feeding, we can talk about that, and I'll come out and meet with you, and we can talk about it. The biggest challenge for most of you is going to be separating pigs while they eat. The first few weeks when you're doing your ration feeding, it can be a little bit of a challenge as they're getting into the mojo of how to eat, especially if they're with other pigs. So, anybody that's going to ration feed, I would recommend taking a little bit of time to figure out a gate or something to separate the pigs a little bit while they eat, so you don't have to be in there doing it. Because it can be, especially like if there's 4 pigs, like there is at Emily's, if we had to ration feed, we would that would be a challenge. So, if you guys are thinking about doing that, definitely, I can work with you on the side about how to implement that in the next little bit. Cool. All right. So one of the other things that I realized we didn't do this year, well, there we go, is our ear notch activity. So for all of you guys that are new, when I was out tagging your pigs and we drew what their ear notches were on the form that I have to turn in for your pigs, we talked about it a little bit, but I wanted just to make sure we hit it tonight as just so you can understand what I was talking about if it didn't make sense. So for your pig, if you're looking at their face, so his right ear is on the litter number and his pig number is the left ear, okay? This is how the farmer keeps track of the pigs when they come out of mom. So a cow or a sheep or a goat that has one or two uh, babies, it's not that hard to keep track of which is which. One, especially if they look differently. Whereas a goat or a pig rather that drops 12 pigs on the ground, and you're trying to give them drugs and you're trying to manage their health, it's a real challenge. So the farmer, once the piglets are out of mom and they've fed and they've settled in a little bit, he has a little clippers, kind of like a paper puncher, like a hole puncher that has a V on it, and he will all the pigs from the litter will get their right ear, all the notches to total up for their litter number. So the ear is broken up into four quadrants for the litter number, and then the tip counts as 81. So then the number of notches in each of those quadrants is math for what their litter number is. The same thing for the pig number. So not nearly as much, just because there's not more than a dozen piglets usually. But then, so for some of you guys that looked at your notches when we did it this weekend, on the right side of the screen is um, the litter number 46, and they do that by having one notch in the 27 quadrant, one notch in the 9, or two notches in the 9, and one in the 1 to total the number 46. And then the same thing on the pig number side. To get to the fifth pig in the litter, he has one notch in his 3 and two notches in the 1 to total 5. So at operations where they have a lot of pigs, you can get a lot of notches, but most places don't have that many. And then they use that to track the health of the critters, to mark down which ones are boys and girls, and keep track of who gets drugs and who gets vaccinations and stuff. So I just wanted to make sure you guys saw that. So the third part of our meeting tonight is I want to talk to you guys a little bit about marketing your pigs. So in 2 months, basically a little over 2 months, you're going to have to sell your pig, and you're going to need to get somebody to come buy the pig. There's going to be 100 and something kids selling pigs. I don't have the complete number yet from the leadership from Spring Show, but like we have 17 kids in our club alone selling pigs. Okay. And there's going to be 100 and something other people. So depending on some random human being in the crowd to come and buy your pig is a very, very big gamble. Okay. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about why do we market our pigs, who do we market our pig to, and how do we do it. So why do we do it? Well, we want to make a big old bag of money. We want to make money because this is a market project. The goal of this is to raise an awesome pig that makes you a big old bag of money. All right. You will get more money from a person that you convince to come buy your pig than you will from the person in the crowd that feels bad that nobody has bought your pig. I've never been to one of these where every pig does not sell, but if you end up as a charity case, you're going to get significantly less money than if you work a little bit to sell your pig. Okay. It's also important as a skill to be able to talk to people about your pig, to be able to write a letter to people, to be able to craft a social media posting about your pig. Okay. Going in, the best way to get somebody to buy your pig is to go talk to them in person and hand them a letter in person, shake their hand and look them in the eye and tell them about your pig. Adults love that stuff, especially the older they get, the more they love it. So, there's three ways that I know of um, to market your pig, all of which should include the same elements. Okay, so who do we sell it to? Who are we trying to sell it to? So the first people are always family members. So we're trying to sell it to grandma, grandpa, aunts and uncles, neighbors, cousins, brothers, sisters, whoever. Next is business or work associates of your parents. The people that ask you annoying questions at your parents' work events or parties. Uh, People who have said, "Oh, I did 4-H when I was a kid. It was so cool." That's got to get a letter. They're begging for a letter. Okay. Uh, Businesses that your parents uh, frequent, like if your mom or dad is always in Nugget Market talking to the cheese guy, always in there buying meat. Uh, Nugget buys animals. Uh, if your parents car mechanic, the tire shop, Les Schwab Tires in Dixon buys animals every year. Um, Car dealerships. One of Austin randomly walked into a car dealership, and that lady came. We never heard from her again, and bought his pig just off of that. Neighbors love this stuff. Anybody who you've talked to about pigs or knows you're doing pigs, give them a letter. Okay. Social media is another option that you can do. And now these things, the social media is going to be the same exact elements as your letters should be. Okay. So it's just a different way of giving it to the person. So this is a example. The one you can see on your screen is an example of a social media post I did 10 years ago for Lauren. So if she came out and tagged your pig with me this weekend, that's Lauren with her pig Charlie in 2014. Um, so kind of bizarre, but and I get a nice cute picture of Lauren and her pig. I tell the people that I'm doing 4-H, what my pig is and what its name is. What have I been doing with my pig? So I'm talking about how she's hand feeding it with her partner twice a day, every day, rain or shine. And then I give them the information about the show. So, the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Okay. So I also always include, hey, the show is the first Saturday in March, and the sale is the next day, Sunday, in Woodland at the fairgrounds. And then you just beat that into them over and over and over. One of the things I do, if I can get Emily to play along, is this is the classic way to do it. We will write a buyer's letter and mail it to people. Okay. I know that sounds very old style, right? But this is kind of the thing that people do. Okay. The last few years, Lauren, Emily, and I have sent at least 2 letters to everybody on our list, and I'll get you guys the buyer's list from last year, and you can do a little sleuthing and make a list. And the first one will be introductory, and the second one might be more details about the auction itself, but just the same stuff. Who are you? What is 4-H? That you're doing the pig project, that your pig is named, this one was Stewie. And Stewie is a crossbred pig, and maybe throw it a fun fact or two. Oh, I walk it. It's really cool. And I train him to walk really well, and I bought him on this date. We want to talk about the date of the show and the auction, and you want to give them an email address. It can be yours, but I recommend you use your parents. We don't really like random people emailing our kid members. That's not really a safe practice. So I give my email address usually, and then I'll mail these out. And it costs, $10 to mail out 20 of these. And, but we've had really good luck with it. And then I'll mail another one in the middle of April. So that, 2 weeks before the show, with a new picture. And, if you can find a picture of you being pathetic and doing it in the rain, that's always really good. But it was a beautiful day today. So they had this picture from last year. Um, so this is really, really, really important. Um, if you want to risk it and to just hope somebody buys your pig, you can. But for a little bit of time, this will take a lot of stress off of a lot of your brains to get this done and to get that word out. And if you first couple of emails you get about how this is so cool, I did 4-H when I was a kid. Thank you very much from your mom's dentist or whoever. You know, it's really neat and it's a good thing to learn how to do. And then when we get towards show, there's always a few people bumbling around that ask me about who's who needs a buyer, and you need to be prepared because I'm going to send you over to them in person to introduce yourself. I'm not selling your pig. I might help you find a person, but you're going to have to go close the deal and make it happen yourself. Um, any questions? There's a lot of talking. Good. Okay, so we've got a couple minutes left. If any of you guys have any questions, compliments, concerns, or complaints, we can do that now. Um, for the next between now and our next 4-H meeting, I'm going to be checking in with all of you. To we should What day is our next 4-H meeting? We should be um, we should be able to hopefully weigh pigs before the meeting again. I'll have to go look. Our next meeting, and your parents have had this date for a few months, so hopefully you guys are still have it on your schedules, is the Sunday the 9th. We are going to go to that pig show again in Corning. So for those of you guys who went last year, the Northern Exposure Multi-Species Livestock Jubilee is on the 8th and 9th of March in Corning at that fairgrounds we went to last time. And so, especially for Marley and Wheeler and Finn, well, Finn's seen 500 pig shows, but for those of you guys that are new, it's a really good um, way to watch. And Elise too is new. It's a really good way to just get your head around what you're going to be doing at Spring Show. Yes, Elise.
How long are we going to be there for? Because there's a pie meeting at 3.
We will be back by 3.
Okay.
We're going to go in the morning because I don't think it lasts past noon on last year we went on Saturday, so it was all day, so we had kind of flexible time, but that's totally cool. That shouldn't be a problem.
Wait, which day did you say we would go?
Sunday, March 9th.
Okay, perfect.
And I can drive some kitties, and then if any other parent can also throw a bunch of monkeys in the car, that would be awesome. But we'll talk about that as we get closer. But I just wanted to make sure you guys had that on your brains. Um, yeah. All right. We have a couple minutes left. If anybody has questions, if not, I will give you guys back to your evenings to do all that homework you've been avoiding and have dinner and whatnot. Cool. All right. So if any of you guys, please sit down and look at your pig's weight and get your head around that a little bit, and then we should be able to weigh them again here in the next 10 days or so and get some good data. But start thinking about that a little bit, and then start thinking about who you want to sell your pig to. Because I know a few of you guys from last year did a little bit of marketing, but then had surprises at the end. So we want to make sure we get that going. So there's no time like the present, especially getting people. If you expect them to be at Spring Show to buy your pig, they need to know that they need to be there. So that's why we send out a letter in March. Not We don't wait till the week before to start calling people. So with that, I will close out the meeting unless anybody has any other questions. All right. Good job, guys. We will, hopefully that wasn't too much talking. I know that was a little bit boring, but this one's kind of a math meeting. So get to work on your buyer's letters, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll talk to you guys later.